Hey viewers, my name's Cara. It's within the first week, it's the second week. It's within the first week of 2020, and you know what that means. It's time for my 2019 year in review. Like this video immediately if you said that along with me because you've been here long enough and you know how this goes. So my 2019 house wall calendar was peanuts. Cute. Just fun fact. As usual, I went through this calendar and circled a bunch of the things that were significant that I want to talk about in this review. And then I also have my 2019 planner, my personal planner. Ooh, shiny, which was a gift from Lauren, the owner, creator, whatever, of Dittany Beauty. Lauren has been sending me planners for a couple years now, so this was my 2019 planner. She also sent me the one I will be using for 2020, and she sent me one in 2018 as well. So I loved this one with the unicorns on it. Unicorns were a big thing, a big symbol that kept popping up in my life at the time, and Lauren did not know that when she sent me this planner and then did more unicorns, right? So going into 2019, unicorns were a big theme, and also you may remember from my channel that I moved into a new house on Samhain on Halloween 2018. I basically spent the previous November unpacking and just trying to get comfortable in this new house. And then in December, right around winter solstice, my grandmother passed away. So going into 2019, into the new year, that's all the stuff that I was kind of bringing with me. That was my baggage that I was taking with me onto the trip of beginning 2019. So I started 2019. I had insomnia already ever since the time we moved, and I was dealing with the recent loss of my grandmother. And the insomnia, spoiler alert, never went away. Still have it. I've been dealing with it for the entire year, probably 5 or more days of the week, if not every single day. Every so often I have a good day where it's easy to fall asleep, a good night, I should say, where it's easy to fall asleep. But for the most part, I can't sleep at night, so I end up awake really late, and then as a result, I have to sleep really long into the next day. If I can sleep, I do, and so I then sleep all day because I work from home, and it's really been messing with my whole schedule and everything. It's made things really difficult. So there's not a lot to actually talk about in 2019. Starting 2019, my mom was in town for grandma's funeral. So the first thing in January that I noted was, my mom's last day here with us. So she was here, she was hanging out, she got to see the new house, stayed at the new house. We did a video together. I interviewed her sort of about tarot reading and did a little show and tell of the deck that she usually uses, which is called the Mythic Tarot. So that's on my channel. Of course, restarting the Pagan Perspective collab for January of 2019. We've been doing that for 10 years, but I'll get there later. The only other thing in January that I had marked was the day that we went out with my partner's parents and we saw the movie Glass and had lunch at Aladdin's, where there are lots of vegan options for my partner and I. In February, not a whole lot happened either. Actually, one big thing did happen, but it's a thing that I've only really talked about on Patreon. So if you're sponsoring my Patreon, which you can support my videos and the other content that I do on the internet for $1 per month or more if you want. And you get to know some exclusive things. Like my patrons got to see the new house tour and vlogs sort of from that experience, and showing off my garden and any personal altars that I put up throughout the year, my seasonal altars, stuff like that. I do all of that stuff exclusively for patrons, so you will not see all of that publicly on my channel. But the other significant thing in February last year, it's 2020, last year was the last time that my partner, who is a musician and singer-songwriter, The last time that they performed publicly in Cleveland at an open mic was February of 2019. There was supposed to be one in March, I think it was March, but it got canceled. Yeah, there was supposed to be another one in March, but it got canceled, and so the one in February ended up being the last one, and now they play music on Twitch, streaming live, sometimes. So we're into March now. My partner's father's birthday, we went out for lunch for his birthday on the same day that would have been my grandfather's birthday. They don't have the same birthday, but the weekend day that we went out to lunch for my partner's dad's birthday was also what would be my grandpa's birthday if he were still alive. My anniversary with my partner is in March, so our second anniversary was in March 2019. And in March, we also saw one of our favorite bands. They're called Pigeons Playing Ping Pong. We saw them at the House of Blues in Cleveland. We've seen them also at the Beachland Ballroom in Cleveland before and other places. It's the first time we saw them at the House of Blues, so it was the first time it was the second time I've been to the House of Blues, but this time we got seats like upstairs in the balcony, sort of like mezzanine situation, and I really liked that because it's away from the crowd and like standing room on the ground floor. And we love pigeons. It's always a good time, and their fan base is really super chill. It's a bunch of hippies, so love them. We saw Pigeons in March. In April, there is almost nothing really of significance on my calendar other than Shakespeare Day was also happened to be the day that we visited the Buckland Museum so that I could talk to them about stuff, which comes later in the year. So yeah, we finally got to see the new location of the Buckland Museum in April. So in May, for Beltane, I tried to use my friend Deborah of Freely Vegan or Vegan Kitchen Magic's recipe to make like wildflower syrup, basically. I was doing it with dandelion, so dandelion honey or dandelion syrup, basically. And I fucked it up, and let's just say the fire department had to come to my house because the smoke from the burning syrup set off the alarm. Beltane's a fire festival, but it was a little bit too literal last year, so we're not gonna do that again. We saw Endgame in May, and then the other really big thing that my partner and I have been doing in May for the past few years is going to Veg Fest, Cleveland Veg Fest, which is a big event with a bunch of vegan vendors, food, as well as businesses and other sorts of products, as well as they have guest speakers come in, and there's like workshops and lectures, and it's a whole day of stuff downtown Cleveland. It's called Veg Fest. So we've been going to that for the past couple of years. Yeah, I think 2019 was our second time going. The first time we went in 2018, we recorded a vlog together, like talking about it and showing all the stuff that we had gotten that year. And that's when my computer crapped out on me. And so I do still have that footage, and I intend to get around to editing it, but it's like an hour and a half of footage, so haven't gotten back to it yet. But I do intend to finally edit it and post that up on Patreon as well. So backlog sort of exclusive stuff. June, of course, is LGBTQ plus Pride Month. In 2018, we went to Cleveland Gay Pride, to the parade. 2019, we did not make it to the parade, but that same weekend, we actually went back toward my family's place, and we visited one of our theater friends, Patty, the director that I always worked with. I was her stage manager several times. She has beautiful property out in the country with just gardens upon gardens, and it's beautiful. So we went to visited her for the first time that year. I think that was the only time we got to see her that year. My cat turned 11 in June. And then also At the very, very end of June, June 30th, I taught my first class at the Buckland Museum. And that's what we had gone there in April to talk to them about. So at the end of June 2019, I taught my first little introduction to witchcraft. That's not what we called it. We called it What is Witchcraft? And it's using Raymond Buckland's Complete Book of Witchcraft, also known as the Big Blue Book, which you saw I did videos about as well when I was reading through that and prepping for the class. I used the first 3-ish chapters of that book to kind of give a little introduction and history of Wicca and what Buckland was doing and how that relates to the rest of witchcraft and basic magical practice and stuff like that. We had a really good group. There were 13 of us, so that was pretty cool. Also in June, I was asked to be an ambassador for one of the companies that I am an affiliate of, a company that I really love called Glad Rags. The CEO, Tracy, had told me before about the ambassadorship program, but I never got around to looking into it. So in 2019, I asked them about it, or I saw that they were looking for more ambassadors specifically to do Instagram promotion, and I use Instagram now, and I love Instagram. So I reached out about that. I became an ambassador for 6 months. So from June to, what's that math, November of 2019, I was an ambassador of Glad Rags. I originally purchased from Glad Rags years ago, so I kind of already had somewhat of a relationship with the company, and I had done review videos of their stuff before, which they had seen, so yeah. And this year, I've been invited to be an ambassador again for the next 6 months. So that's really exciting. There's information in the description of my videos about that as well. They're definitely not products that apply to every person who might be watching my videos, but if it does apply to you and you're interested, you can use my affiliate link and they send me a little commission. So then in July, we were supposed to go, like, one of our big travel plans, because okay, we just moved into a new house, and we moved into the house actually to save money because our mortgage payments and even with the taxes and all the payments are actually less than what we were paying just in rent at our previous place. So we said no to a lot of different opportunities in 2019. We love pigeons, so we did go see them at House of Blues, but there were many other concerts that we had to say no to because we basically made that our one for the year. And there were lots of festivals and camping trips and stuff like that that we normally would have liked to take that we had to say no to. But the one we chose was a festival in New York at the beginning of July. And so that was supposed to be like a 3-day thing. But the first day when we started getting ready to go, we didn't get very far down the road when we realized we were having some car trouble. So we had to turn around, take our car to the garage, and then it took that entire first day to get the car repaired. So we missed out on an entire day of the festival, for which we do not get our money back or anything like that. So we set out the second day, but of course, by the second day, there were no camping spots. And we hadn't thought about that because previously, my partner volunteered, and so they were always allowed to get there the day before the festival, and all the volunteers would kind of have a little camping area together, and so they got kind of first pick. So we didn't really think about whether or not there would still be spaces in the normal camping ground where we normally would have stayed, and there were not. Also, when we got there, it was a complete deluge. It was just pouring down rain for the entire drive, and then when we got there, everything with like the fields, everything was just a lake. And so we very quickly had to decide, okay, we're just gonna take off our shoes and walk through just puddle, right? So that just had to be a decision that you made, number one. Like, your shoes are gonna get wet or you're gonna go barefoot. So we just went barefoot. But yeah, everything was muddy and wet. And so even if we could have found a space to camp, it was already soaking wet. And it was still raining. The rain was ongoing. So setting up a tent in those circumstances was just kind of like, so we were not having a good day, and we could have paid extra to get a car camping spot in one of the rain-soaked fields across the street. But since we had already missed out on the entire first day of the festival and basically just lost out on that whole day's worth of ticket money, I did not want us to pay extra, because again, this was the one thing we had budgeted and saved for. We already missed out on that money. Yeah. So unfortunately, the one thing that we had really been looking forward to and had planned to do got kind of messed up, and that was in July. But then in mid-July, Oberon Zell Ravenheart came to the Buckland Museum to give a talk and tell stories, and so we got to meet Oberon, and that was just a really great time. There is also an additional video about that on my Patreon. And I posted my review of Weave the Liminal by Laura Tempest Zakharoff in July. Yeah, oh, and then at the end of July, one of my college theater buddies came to visit. I hadn't seen them in a couple of years. They usually hit me up when they're in town, but they don't live around here, so that was pretty fun. They got to meet my partner. They weren't able to stay for very long, so we just ended up talking and, just catching up. So that was fun. And then in August, my partner's cousin was back in town from college, so they came over to see the new house as well. And in August, we finally got our new computer, and I posted a t-shirt recon video for the first time in years, announcing and celebrating the fact that we had a new computer and I finally had access to my editing software again. Then in September, we started having some problems with the brand new computer and had to send it in for repairs. So for most of October, we didn't have it and I couldn't edit videos again. But now it's all good. Early August is also my partner's and my Twitch anniversary. That is our anniversary of live streaming on Twitch. So in early August, we did a 24-hour live stream celebrating that. Playing a bunch of video games. My partner played some of their original music, and I think we did a cooking stream for part of it too, like when we were making dinner. I don't even remember. It's a blur, but we did a 24-hour live stream. Thank you to those of you who came by and kept us company at odd hours. I posted my review video of the new Elements of Magic book, Reclaiming Earth, Air, Fire, Water, Spirit, edited by Gade Parma and Jane Meredith. And then my birthday is in August, so last year, 2019, I used to post these year in review videos like very late December of the year I was reviewing. Now I tend to do them as my first video of the next year, so I keep saying this year because I still feel like it was this year. It was still within the past year at this point. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. For my most recent birthday, we went to the Cleveland Botanical Gardens again, which is what we had done my first birthday with my current partner. We went to the Botanical Gardens, and then that was 2017. 2018, we went to see the Ohio Serpent Mound. I had never been there before. 2019, we did the Botanical Gardens again, because I really enjoyed that, and it's not something that we do a lot. My birthday, 2019, also marked the 10th anniversary of the Pagan Perspective collab channel, because we started it on my birthday in 2009. It wasn't specifically supposed to be my birthday, it just happened to be that way because my birthday was a Sunday that year and we were starting the collab week on Sundays originally. Now we don't post on Sundays, we start the week on Monday. But at the time it was Sunday and that day just happened to be my birthday. So now my birthday is also the birthday of the Pagan Perspective, but it was not purposely supposed to be like my birthday. So I celebrated like being on YouTube for 10 years at the same time as well. Even though I was posting a little bit before that, it was still like basically, I've been on YouTube for a decade. And then we went to a Veg Fest fundraiser at a local restaurant where all of the meals, a portion of the proceeds went to funding Veg Fest for next year. And since that's a thing that we like to go to, we did that. So that was cool. In September, I kind of started keeping up on like a regular posting schedule for the first time in forever. I'm still doing my best with that. Obviously, like last month, that didn't happen so much. Like I said, though, like the end of the year is just rough. But in September, I was a guest speaker / service leader at a Unitarian Universalist church in Ohio again for the second year in a row. They invited us back. So my partner played original music for the service, for the prelude and postlude. I designed the service because that's something that I used to do at the UU church that I used to attend in my area. I was on the worship arts committee, which is the committee that kind of designs, I almost said ritual, designs the services, which basically are kind of like designing a ritual, but it's just like you were doing it in a different tradition or a different system. So we would decide on the readings and the hymns or songs or chants that would be done, and any other stuff that was going to be involved with that specific service's theme. So yeah, this was my second year. It's really nice to see some of the same people again, because you really feel like you get to know them. And then, you know, like a lot of people, I was there and I felt like I knew where I was going now. I wasn't a stranger there anymore, so I could just go and help myself and do what I needed to do. And I was like, yeah, it really doesn't feel like it's been a whole year. And even like some of the other people who were working in the kitchen were like, that was a year ago? Yeah, I remember when you were here before, and I remember the service, and you know, I can't believe that was a year ago. Neither can I. I also announced that I would be doing another round of my Saturn Returns course in September, and that started at the beginning of October. So I started the next round of my Saturn Returns course the very first Saturday in October, and that is also the first day that I helped out at the Buckland Museum, and I started working there every other weekend. I also taught 2 classes at the museum in October. They were much smaller groups than the What is Witchcraft class back in June, but in October we did a class on pendulums one week, and then the week immediately following that we did a class on scrying. That one was a very intimate group. That was just me and my partner and the 2 directors of the museum. We got to use some of the different scrying things that are around the museum, and I also brought some different ones that I had available. The intent was that people would get a chance to try different methods, and yeah, then we get to sort of talk about what we experienced. And then of course Samhain is at the end of October, and that is also the anniversary of my partner and I moving into this house. So it was our first house anniversary and my first Samhain since losing my grandmother. So first time with Grams being on the other side. We baked cookies that were chocolate and orange, and my partners also included ghost pepper, and they were in the shape of ghosts. November was much the same. You might have noticed I haven't mentioned anything like theater. I haven't done any theater stuff in the past couple of years for reasons. But yeah, so I work from home, and basically what I do is plan videos and record videos and read books and take notes on books, and then eventually probably make videos about the books, which is what I did a lot of in 2019. Yeah, I do a lot of reading, and then like I said, with the insomnia, my schedule is really pretty up. So not a lot of other stuff going on except for very specific other occasions, like when I'm asked to be a guest service leader at a UU church, or when I am teaching a class or offering a course, or whatever the case may be, or the one festival we choose to go to throughout the year, or the one concert we choose to go to throughout the year, things like that. Otherwise, I am home or I am at the Buckland Museum. Those are my home bases right now. And then my partner live streams video games, and usually once a week we live stream playing games together. So that's another thing that I do, which has been fun. And everyone that we've met through that knows I'm a witch and knows what I do. And some of you who are already my people have also joined us over there. So there's a little commingling of sort of the different things that I do. And it's funny because other people will ask me, like, you know, we know you do the witchcraft thing, we know you talk about that on YouTube, and we know you work at this witchcraft museum, like, so what else do you do? And I just like, about that. Because it's kind of all I do. So, you know, I used to do more theater stuff as well. I'm not currently working in that capacity, so that's not a thing. So it really does feel like that's all I do. My partner's birthday is in November though, so in addition to just business as usual throughout November, November is a really difficult time for my partner because of some personal anniversaries of stuff that have happened in their life, people that they've lost. And then moving into December, now I have someone very close to me who I lost, and that's all coming right after Samhain, when we specifically honor and remember our ancestors and beloved dead. Even though we remember them all throughout the year, that's a very specific time, you know, that it's kind of what everybody's talking about if you're not talking about it all year. And so we have Samhain, and then we have anniversaries of very specific losses in the 2 months after that. But my partner's birthday is also in November, and so we had that, and they like birthday pie rather than cake, so we made vegan pumpkin pie again. Now that I've actually figured out how to do it, I figured that out in 2018. I found a good recipe for that. So did that this year again, as well as a 4-berry pie. And then we went to brunch with my partner's parents as well. And then that brings me to December. As I said, I had been dealing with insomnia all year long, but seriously, as soon as December hit, like the first week of December, it came back in full force. And it was right back to kind of how it was when my grandma was in the hospital. Even though that didn't happen until more like around winter solstice, I feel like December hit and I was like, it's December, and I couldn't sleep again. So yeah, my posting schedule for Patreon and for this channel got really messed up in December, and I'm fully aware of that, and I'm gonna come back, but I'm just trying to kind of figure it all out right now. Oh, but we also did get Pokemon Sword and Shield on Nintendo Switch, so we're playing Pokemon a lot. We're hunting a shiny Pumpkaboo right now. We probably have like almost 1,000 encounters and captures at this point. We're also doing the breeding method, so like our chances should be pretty well maxed out by now. We just still haven't come across a shiny Pumpkaboo yet. But I really love all the Halloweeny, witchy Pokemon. And I know they're not brand new, but this is the first time I've played a Pokemon game since Pokemon Red, okay? And I recently found at my grandma's house, because I had to go clean out my stuff in my grandma's house because my cousin's going to be moving in there, I found my old Game Boy Color with the Pokemon carrying case and the games that I had for it. My original Pokemon Red. And my partner's never played a Pokemon video game before, so Sword and Shield was their first one. It's a little different, right? Anyway, so yeah, in December, we went to my grandma's house to get all the rest of my stuff out of her house that was still stored there because I used to live with her. We saw Star Wars with my partner's parents. We weren't really planning on seeing it, but my partner's mom's birthday is in December, and she likes to go see a movie for her birthday, so it ended up being Star Wars. I've seen more Star Wars movies because of that than I ever would have seen if it was just like me. I don't just go to movies. My partner's mom gets movie tickets through their job. So we get basically like free, somebody paid for them, but free movie tickets. So that's the only reason we ever go. Otherwise, I don't go to the cinema. I also haven't been to the theater in a while, which is kind of sad, but it's like, we make choices. And then for New Year's this year, one of my partner's nephews and one of their cousins, the same cousin who had come to visit us earlier in the year, they both came over for New Year's, so that was cool. We don't really get to see a lot of people, kind of ever, so that was nice. So that was my 2019. There really wasn't a lot to say. I just told lengthy stories about the few things that there were. That's how we got here. I thought that would actually take less time, so I was also going to do a brief decade in review, but now I think the decade in review will be shorter. So just thinking back, 2010, I was in college. I was a sophomore. 2010, just trying to remember like the biggest things that still stand out to me about those years, because of course you can go back on my channel and watch the year in reviews from those years. But the big things that stand out to me now, like in hindsight, 2010 was the year that I went to New York City and we went to Gay Pride, a group of my friends. I met a whole bunch of YouTubers that I was really actively watching at the time, a lot of my New York YouTuber friends. It was also the year that I went through a really crappy breakup that like I did start rewatching that year in review and I was like, yeah, I got dumped and then I was really depressed and then everything sucked. And it really sounds kind of like, wow, this person is kind of making a mountain out of a molehill, like it's just a breakup, you know? I really underplayed it because I still to this day don't know how to I don't want to talk about stuff like that publicly on my YouTube channel, and I don't have to. So, but rewatching it, I was like, wow, I really underplayed that. I'm super vague all the time. Isn't it great? But yeah, 2010 was actually the year that I started seeing a counselor and was more or less diagnosed with anxiety and depression. So that's when my relationship with having anxiety and depression began. So that stands out to me. New York, and starting to see a counselor. And my first counselor was kind of crap, but then the second counselor that I had through my college was absolutely fantastic. And if I could still see him to this day, I would, but I lost that ability when I graduated. 2011, nothing in particular comes to mind. I think 2011 is the year we did hair, or was that still 2010? No, that was still 2010. So nothing really immediately comes to mind for 2011. 2012 is when I went to England for 3 weeks with a study abroad trip. I vlogged all of it, and y'all never got to see any of it because the files got corrupted and my computer stopped working, and I've been trying to recover all of those vlogs. I've only been able to recover a few of them. One of them doesn't have audio, and the rest of them are just completely missing. And I think it's because the only place I know they all existed was on a flash drive that got corrupted, and I have not been able to access them. So that's really disappointing. That happened in 2012. I went to England, and then I also graduated from college and then moved. Like between 2012 and 2018, when we moved into this house, I've lived several places, but all generally around, Northeast Ohio. I've never lived permanently like outside of Ohio. But after graduation, my mom moved to Arizona. I lived with my grandma for a while, so that's where there's lots of videos of Grams, lots of those clips in the memorial video that I just made for her, which is the previous video on this channel, are from that time because I lived with her. I actually remember a lot of the stuff that happened in 2012 more because I did that bonus video where I did 2012 in pictures, where I tried to take a selfie every day of the year. I did not succeed in doing it every day of the year, but I had a lot of pictures from throughout the year. And when I watch that video, I see the pictures. I remember what happened on all of those days sort of a lot more than I would otherwise. So I remember a lot about 2012, like where I worked and stuff like that, more because of that video. So I think I might actually, I'd like to do that again. I think it came out really cool, and it helps me remember what happened throughout the entire year in a different way. So I graduated, I lived with my grandma, then I lived with my brother for a while. I was working at a Victorian style tea parlor for 2.5 years. After that, I think I started there in 2013, and then I worked there through 2015. So yeah, 2013 I started working there. I lived with my brother at first, and then I lived on my own in a little house, which was my first time kind of renting a place by myself. 2014, and through all this time, I'm doing theater, I'm stage managing, I'm acting, I'm doing all these things. I'm working at the tea parlor. 2015, I quit working at the tea parlor. My relationship of the previous 4 years ended. I started paying more attention to the messages that I was receiving from the universe. I was going through a lot of sort of spiritual path shifts as well. And then in the fall of 2015, I went to my first witch camp. There are several vlogs about that. That's kind of when I started becoming more involved directly in the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft, which I had been interested in and working with through the books that are available since 2012, since I graduated. But in 2015, I finally got to a witch camp, and then it kind of really took off from there, because then in 2016, I was attending workshops, I was taking other core classes, I'm working up to being a trained teacher in the tradition. I'm building community within that tradition in my area, in my state, because it doesn't already exist formally in any sort of concrete way in my entire state. So I'm sort of trying to get that started, help get that started. So that's been a really big theme of all of these years. 2016, I remember, there was a lot. There was a lot of drama in my personal life in 2016. Not that I'm going to talk about right now, but I'm just like trying to, say the year to myself and like, what does that year make me think of? So yeah, and then 2017, I met my current partner that year. And then yeah, the more recent years I kind of just covered. They're more recent, so I don't really have to give so much of a recap on those. But yeah, I mean, previously with these review videos, I would have gone through and like counted how many shows did I see, how many shows was I in, how many places did I live, how many, whatever. I would have looked at things from my planner and things from my journal and things from social media and all kinds of things. And just right now, that all feels like a lot of work. I'm not sleeping well enough to do all of that work now, y'all. Like, thinking back to like the beginning of this decade, 2010, I probably would have been wearing exactly this or something like this, like to my theater tech design class, and I would have been spending my free time reading English literature, novels, and plays by, Harold Pinter and Bertolt Brecht, and discussing the Stanislavski method and doing 24-hour theater with my theater guild friends, staged readings of plays within a 24-hour time period. So very minimal rehearsal. Gosh, I was taking classes in ceramics and creating giant 3D foam heads of the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. Like, life was so simple back then. What would I give to go back and live in a dorm with a meal plan again? Truly love that song. I wish I could go back to college from Avenue Q, one of my favorite shows. But yeah, everything is just so different now. Literally, like with my brain the way that it is now, and like my sleep schedule the way that it is now, and my motivation and anxiety and depression the way that they are now, a decade later, I look back to that time and I'm just like, how did I ever do those things? How did I ever do all of those things? How did I operate on that little sleep? How did I, and it's because there was structure, it's because there were people around me that I was constantly seeing, and like, dude, being an adult is isolating AF. And I'm sure a lot of you can relate to that, which is also part of why building community is a thing that I want to do. How do you do all the things that you do? So many of you are just, you really accomplish a lot throughout the course of a day. And I commend you. I absolutely commend you. It's wild. Yeah, so that's my 2019 year in review. I'll see you next time I see you. Like I said, I'm trying to keep to a schedule, but I'm also trying to deal with the way that my life is. So yeah, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Let me know some of the highlights of your 2019. Was it a great year? Was it a crappy year? What were some of the good things that maybe existed within all of the rest of the not so great things? What do you want to be able to look back on 10 years from now and remember about the beginning of this decade? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to be awesome, blessed be, and goodbye.
How do I go back to college? I don't know who I am anymore. I wanna go back to my room and find a message and dry erase pen on the door. What?